Lutzer of Running to Win, heard daily on Bible School Radio, 91.3 KDKR, Decatur, Dallas, Fort Worth, and on 91.3 KYJC, Commerce.
Portions of KDKR programming do not necessarily reflect the views of this station, its management, or staff.
Prudent Money with Bob Brooks is sponsored by the Prudent Money Foundation on 91.3.
Well, the top 10 longest lasting cars. Today we're going to take a look. Stay tuned for the special Car Corner edition of Prudent Money. Bob Brooks, and you are listening to the special Car Corner edition of Prudent Money. We in the studio today with me, as he is every Friday, is Tony Joe, here to answer your Car Corner questions. The number to call is 1-877-913-5357. I do have a line open. Would love to hear from you today. If you've got a question for me, go to the website, I should actually say the new website, Tony Joe, because we just finished kind of doing the final few tweaks to it. So it's, for the most part, it's brand new. And I got a lot of great features to it, which we'll be talking about through the weeks ahead. But go there, and there's just ask a question. You'll see where it says to do that, and we'd love to get you taken care of.
You and I want to point out that new website is phenomenal, and I know that you worked hard on it, and with the help of Alyssa Cantrell, your right-hand man, and you did a great job. I want to compliment both of you.
Thank you. The actually, I was just on the sideline watching what she did. So.
Like in most cases.
We'll keep that.
The girl does all the work.
Keep the credit where the credit is due, because I couldn't do what she
Actually, when
did.
I have a financial question, I don't even bother dialing you anymore. I just call her. I say, look, Bob probably won't even know what's the real answer.
Well, and I also have to correct myself, because I gave you her maiden name when you asked me. It's Van Vessem.
Oh,
so sorry, Luke. And Luke listens to the program when you're on. I don't think her husband ever listens when I'm doing the radio program. But they especially tune in to you.
So he's a mechanic guy that likes to listen. Okay, good. Well, I don't know her married name, and I apologize.
Van Vessem.
Van Vessem. Okay. Well, she did a good job helping you with that.
Thank you. I'm sure that she'll hear the compliment. 1-877-913-5357 is the number to call. So, Tony Joe, I get these lists all the time from iSeeCars.com. One of the things I like about the studies that especially this website does is they've got legit data to comb through and come up with these statistics.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And so the list, and I think we look at this once a year. The list is cars most likely to last 250,000 plus miles or more. And what's interesting to me about that is, and you and I were talking about it, the first thing that just jumps off the page, there's two things that jumps off the page. First one is 250,000 miles is just not that big of a deal anymore. I would be more impressed if it said 400,000 miles.
Right, you're correct. 250 is not a big deal anymore. That is commonplace. Lots of vehicles average that, and way more than that, too.
1-877-913-5357. Let's talk to Steve from Kennedale. Steve, welcome to the program. What's on your mind today?
Hi. Thanks, Bob and Tony, for providing this forum. I'm kind of like a repeat caller. This one concerns that 2016 Ford F-150, and I am the original owner. It's got about 94,000 miles on it right now, and they're gentle miles. I mean, they've just been the most gentle miles, so this is kind of strange. But the other day, driving down the service road, it downshifts 2 gears immediately. It tacks over 4,000 RPM. The radiator fans go on, and like, what? And then an icon with a wrench appears briefly.
Mm-hmm.
I pop it into neutral and put it back in drive, and it won't go. The engine just revs up, and then it fixes itself, and away we go. So, kind of strange. I'm scheduled for Monday morning. I'm a long ways from Level Land, so I picked a Ford dealer just over by my house just to get a diagnostic done. But, yesterday I'm sitting at a red light, and it feels like it's going to go into reverse with my foot on the brake. The fans come on again, and then it performs, regular. I mean, we're in drive, and away we go.
Well, Steve, does the check engine light also come on with the throttle, with the other light?
I don't know, Tony. I didn't notice that because the icon is so big. It's a huge square, a symbol with a wrench, and it says consult owner's manual, and then it disappears. It only stays on for a couple seconds.
Now, you're telling me it's only got 94,000, right? Not 194,
yes.
But 94. Okay. I'm going to suggest to you,
yes.
I'm going to suggest to you when you take it in Monday, do not be surprised if they call you back and refer to your problem as a throttle body issue. And
really?
It was that light that comes on that you're talking about is for the big wrench. Now, that's going to indicate a throttle body problem. So I'm assuming, you know what, I'm not even going to assume. What engine do you have? Is it the EcoBoost?
No, wouldn't touch it. It's a 302. I'm just a V8 guy.
All right, so you got the 5-liter, and I'm going to say that you're going to get an answer that the throttle body is probably going to have to be replaced. Now, they may add to that. I don't know, but that's going to be one of the main problems you're going to have. Now, I would advise you, if you suspect or kind of feel like something's up and, your radar is telling you maybe things don't fall into place, you can always call me and I'll give you my opinion, but that's probably what it's going to end up being.
Okay, that's amazing. I was backing up the other day, same thing, and there was nothing there, and you put it in drive, and it just revs up. Mm-hmm. And back into neutral, back into drive, light goes off, and away you go. It's like, what would make it decouple from the transmission? The fans, you can hear those things go on.
Yeah, I would really like to know. Now, you're telling me that the transmission acts like it's in neutral sometimes, and then it catches?
Yes.
Okay. Well, now the wrench light is usually an indication of a throttle body problem. The neutral thing could be low on transmission fluid, and unfortunately, I don't think you can just check the fluid on that. I think you've got to, that's the 6-speed, does it have drive manual 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1?
You got it.
Yeah. Okay, so you're going to have that professionally checked at the dealer as well, because it's going to have to go up in the air and you remove a plug and go through a little ritual, warming it up to a certain temperature. It's not just as easy as stabbing a stick down in the filler tube like we used to. So you could have
I'm glad you mentioned that.
A slow leak somewhere, or normally on Fords. Have you ever had the radiator replaced?
No.
Okay. There are 2 lines that go from the transmission to the radiator, and a lot of times you'll develop small leaks in those lines, and over a period of years it can drip enough fluid out of there to make it low on fluid. And you think about it, if it's low on fluid in the transmission, especially when it's cold, you're going to have symptoms like going into neutral, especially when you come to a fast stop, because all the fluid wants to flow towards the front of the pan and away from the filter. So if you drive it for a while and all of a sudden it acts normal, then all it did was expand the amount of fluid because the fluid got warm and it just made more fluid. And it's just low enough.
I understand.
Yeah, just low enough for you to feel that. But call me if you need some help trying to make a decision on what to do. I don't know what they're going to tell you, but that's my guess.
Yeah. Okay, I know this thing says 150,000 for trans service. I thought I'd go in at 100,000, but I did wonder, why can I never check?
Well, I don't know that you need a transmission service. I think you're just low on fluid.
Yeah, right.
And then, of course, it'll have to be, the leak will have to be determined. I mean, it went somewhere. You're not supposed to use it,
No, and it would have to be going out the tailpipe, because I'm the 18-wheeler guy that looks for drops under my truck before I ever get to it. You know, and the garage floor is completely clean. There's no leaks on this truck.
Yeah.
And like I said, it's been babied miles. Just crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much.
I'll be around. You call me if you want to talk about it. Okay?
I know where you're at. Thanks you, brother.
Steve. All right.
Have a blessed weekend.
You too. Lord bless you.
1-877-913-5357. That is the number to call. You know, Tony Joe, of course, I've known you for a very long time. And what always, something I appreciate about you, I'm not about to make a joke. I'm being serious. Because you are.
Because I'm on the ready 5 for a comeback.
No, but one of the things I've appreciated about you is your problems, your gift, really, for problem solving. And I just think of, to be in your business, you got to have that gift.
That's why mechanics become mechanics, because they love solving problems.
Yeah,
that's the whole thing about being a mechanic, is figuring things out. So I would assume most guys like me are like that.
I'll bet you that you're a rare class, but that's my bias. So
it's been said by many people that I'm a rare. Yeah, Bob, you got that right. I don't know if it's a good thing, but
okay. 1-877-913-5357. You teed that ball up, and I didn't have to swing. Thank you. 1-877-913-5357. I do have a line open. So we're getting close to a break, by the way, Tony Joe. But the thing about this going back to the list that we were talking about, cars most likely to last 250,000 plus miles. I guess the burning question is, when you look at this, is what do these car manufacturers do, or what's the difference between this top 10 and there's got to be a bottom 10, obviously. So what do you think the difference is, or do you think there may not really be a difference?
I'm not so sure there's much of a difference, and we can discuss that. I don't know how much time. Well, we'll discuss that after the break.
1-877-913-5357. This is Bob Brooks. Stick around. Be right back.
The Word for Today is excited to announce the new official online home for the ministry of Pastor Chuck Smith and Kay Smith, pastorchuck.org. At pastorchuck.org, you'll have instant access to thousands of hours of verse-by-verse teaching by Pastor Chuck Smith from Genesis through Revelation, and full access to special messages on subjects such as prophecy and much, much more. Also at pastorchuck.org, a full library of great teachings by Kay Smith, and a section where you can read some of Pastor Chuck's books online, all free of charge. So visit the new official online home of the Word for Today and the ministry of Pastor Chuck and Kay Smith. pastorchuck.org.
Do you ever want to stay in bed all day? Or perhaps you procrastinate and wait until the very last minute? Well, there's certainly nothing wrong with having a day off or going on vacation. But laziness is sinful and can easily spiral into a life without purpose and without hope. I'm John Monroe, and Monday on The Verdict, we're considering the deadly sin of sloth. Monday on The Verdict.
The Verdict, weekday mornings at 10:30, here on Bible School Radio, KDKR.
Is COVID-19 a sign of the rapture? No, because there aren't any signs for the rapture. The rapture is a signless, imminent event. But is this pandemic a sign of the second coming of Christ? Probably.
Join Dr. David Jeremiah for his series, Where Do We Go From Here? Next time on Turning Point.
Weekday mornings at 9 o'clock here on KDKR.
Welcome back. This is Bob Brooks, and you are listening to this special Car Corner edition of Prudent Money. 1-877-913-5357 is the number to call. So we talked. The question that I posed before you got cut off was, you have this top 10 list of vehicles that are most likely to get 250,000 miles plus. What is the difference between Ford F-350 Super Duty truck, which was number one, and number 10, a Toyota 4Runner. What's the difference between that top 10 and the bottom 10?
Well, Bob, here's the thing. I want to just try to make an analogy for the guys out there, at least. I mean, a lot of girls are sports fans, but the best team in the NFL and the worst team in the NFL really are not that far apart. But you don't hear about the worst teams all the time. The big teams that they talk about in the news are, a handful of maybe 5 teams that you hear the most about. Those are the winning teams in the Super Bowl in the last 5 years. So I'm going to tell you that there's not a whole lot of difference between a Toyota Camry or, say, a Honda and a Toyota comparable model, whatever you want to choose that as being.
Accord and a Camry.
Yeah, an Accord and a Camry, most common. It's how you take care of a vehicle that counts. So if you take good care of your vehicle, even if you're not on the top 10 list, there's no reason to believe you can't go. And like we said, 250,000 is not a big milestone in my book. I mean, I see that all the time, and more than that, a lot. Now, I want to say this about the longevity and the best top 10 cars, so to speak, according to this company, ICU Cars or something?
ICCars.com.
Okay, ICCars.com. I'm not familiar with that publication, but just let me point out a couple of quick things. Number one, the one thing that would make you get rid of your car or trade it in or junk it, depending on your financial situation, is, let's face it, if you blew the motor, right? Big expense. Car's got a few years on it. I don't want to put a motor in this thing, I'm going to get rid of it. Okay. Now, back up a minute. You know what? One of the things that causes or allows us to go this long and the mileage we see on cars now is the fact that the oil is so much better. It's not, there's technology differences in the engine, and it is better, but that's not the real story. The oil that we're putting in cars now is so much more sophisticated. Technology has come a long way in oil. So the engines last longer. That makes you want to keep the car. Transmission hopefully doesn't go bad, but sometimes that happens, but that's not as bad as having to replace the engine. And then you want to keep the car, so the car gets brakes once in a while, it gets shocks, it gets, routine maintenance.
So here's something interesting. I asked you, I told you this would be probably an impossible question for you to come up with because there may not be a good answer to it. Mm-hmm. You do the maintenance, you do everything by the book. Everything by the book. You're not an extra mile over or anything.
Okay.
Perfect on the maintenance. What else could you do above that to make your car go over 250,000 miles another? And I didn't expect an answer because I don't know if there really is one. But from what you're saying, someone who's skimping on the type of oil.
Or not getting it changed often
Well, no,
enough.
we're assuming they're getting it changed.
Oh, okay.
But are you saying just what you said a little while ago?
Are they using the right type of oil?
Right.
Okay.
Exact brand.
I suppose.
Quality. Could that make a big
Yeah,
difference?
I suppose you could argue that.
Kind of reaching for an answer, but.
Well, I suppose that would be a contributing factor to early premature death of an engine. You're right. I can't argue that point. I guess if you use cheap oil, then you would, But in most cases, that's not going to happen. And, a lot of these automobile companies want to reflect their automobile, and they want people to know that it goes 300,000. They want people to keep these cars to a point that it's good for business for the manufacturer. And there's little things that people do, and I just want to have you think about this one little thing, and it's not a big deal, but how you drive it. Now, let's say a guy takes perfect care of his car, and he does everything properly, but he happens to live out in the country where the driveway is 1.25 miles long before he gets to the house. I mean, that's not unusual. People do live like that. They work in the city, they drive home, and it's a bumpy dirt road kind of driveway with, pretty hard on the vehicle. He's going to have shocks more often. He's taking good care of the vehicle. but it's just the wear and tear that the vehicle is subjected to. So how you drive, where you drive, can have a lot to do with the kind of maintenance you're going to require on your automobile. And I want to just point that out, that, you know, there is no perfect scenario. And some of these summaries of the top 10 best cars are not always something you should take for as, you know, seriously, without at least comparing them to other summaries. Because the one thing I have run across, Bob, and I don't want to belabor this point, but I will tell you, in my experience, some of these lists that have a lot of Toyotas being in first, second, third, fifth place, you know, you could look into who's funding the publishing, and it's Toyota contributing a lot of money.
Right.
Now, I'm not saying that's what's wrong with this. I'm not saying that's...
Well, and I think to the question that I posed to you before the program was, what separate Honda? No, wait, was it Toyota? It's Toyota is according to this list, the top-ranked brand with the most vehicles that last the longest.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you're successful with a marketing campaign, then you can market over and over and over that we have the longest lasting car. I'm not saying Toyota does that, but I'm saying once you hear it 100 times, you start to believe it.
Well, you know what? I will say this really quick about that, and that is Toyota is by far, I mean, they're well-built, well-engineered cars. I'm not knocking them in any way. They are fantastic vehicles. They have had a good track record for years and years, and I'm really proud of them. It's a good vehicle. I'm not going to argue that.
1-877-913-5357. Let's talk to Carlos from Fort Worth. Carlos, thanks for waiting. What's on your mind today?
I got a 2013 Dodge Ram, and the engine light came on, and I had it checked out, and they said one of my cylinders was misfiring. I need to replace the spark plug.
Okay.
Well, so I replaced the spark plugs. I went ahead and replaced all of them. And then, of course, they turned the engine light off. And about a week later, maybe 2 weeks, the engine light came back on. Now, I noticed that it came back on when I was going up the hill pulling my boat. But anyway, it came on. So I called the place that fixed it. And they go, well, we did it right. We're not sure. So I called a mechanic friend of mine that has his own shop. And he said what happens is the lifters stick on them Dodges. They're known for that. He said what you would have to do is go in there and fix that. And we're talking about an expensive fix.
Carlos, is this a 5.7 Hemi?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Well, they do have an issue with them.
I got 100.
Are you anywhere near due for an oil change?
Yes, sir. As a matter of fact, I do need an oil change.
All right, Carlos, let me give you some advice. Change the oil before you go jump into any conclusions about lifters. Yes, lifters can get a little piece of debris in them. They can stick. The reason they do that, though, is because the oil is not being changed quite often enough. And the reason it happened pulling your boat up a hill is because there's a bigger load on it, more stress. And the oil is dirty enough where it's breaking down and not allowing good lubrication, especially in the lifter area, which is a very small little holes that need to drink up oil. And if the oil's dirty or a little bit thicker than it should be, it can't get through, it can't feed enough oil through there. And I'll be glad to talk to you about that, but you call me back next week. But the first thing I do is get a good oil change and use good oil.
Okay.
See if that problem goes away.
All righty. Have you heard of this problem with the Dodges?
Yes, I have, and I've solved many times. I simply change the oil. Even when they're not due for an oil change, it works. So I would first suggest that's the first thing you should do. If you're close to an oil change or even overdue, get the oil changed.
Okay.
And then drive
All
it
right,
and see what happens.
Okay, thank you. That's what I'm going to do right now.
Good, Carlos. Thank you for calling in, and Lord bless you.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Sorry about that, Carlos. Hey, make sure that you call us back and let us know if Tony Joe really knows what he's talking about. Because, you see, we could all be under a spell thinking that you know what you're talking about when you really don't know what you're talking about.
Well, you know, when we talk about how important it is to change oil, that's just one of the thousands of things that can happen. That's why I really hope he calls us back, because I think it'll be a good thing.
Very, very interesting. This is Bob Brooks. You got a question for me, please go to the website at www.prudentmoney.com and send it in, because we are all out of time. Till we do meet again next time, keep the faith and have a great rest of the day.
That's all the time we have for today. Questions or comments for Bob, or to find out more great information like what you've just heard, visit www.prudentmoney.com. Be sure to join Bob Brooks again for the next edition of Prudent Money.